Hey, it's Fun Chief here. Welcome to another installment in the Alliance Match training series where fortune favors the prepared mind. At the conclusion of the last lesson, I mistakenly said that the next lesson was going to be talking about battle tactics for naval and artillery. And actually, I forgot something. There is one more lesson before we get into the battle tactics one. The next lesson is lesson number 18, use of Discord. This tool is so vital to the success of any alliance match that I can't possibly think of ending this training series without having some words of advice for the use of Discord. So if you don't have a Discord, you definitely want to make sure you have one. It's pretty easy to set up. Definitely take some safeguards to make sure that you protect yourself. A new alliance might not understand that there are people out there that are kind of nefarious. They'll get favor with you. They'll come into your Discord, and then they'll do things to try to damage your Discord or make it so you can't use it, or even do things to just sow discontent, and ultimately the seeds of destruction for your alliance. So when you set up your Discord, if you're really new to this and so on, just reach out to one of the more senior organizations like Red Wolf and others, and we'll definitely give you some advice on how to protect yourself and make sure that you get off to a good start and don't take any unnecessary risks with this. So it's not that tough, right? So we created a channel, a series of channels with one major header that was the name of the alliance match that we're playing, and then there's sub channels in here. This command chat, general, economy screenshots, screenshots in general, build plan, land battle, and navy battle. This is generically what we landed on as the way that we capture all this information. And it's useful for a lot of things. The obvious is that right away you got a place to issue orders or to have discussions, and people, when different time zones and so on, when they come back, they can look and see what was discussed, what's relating to them, and so on. So it's all captured in there. The other thing is it kind of creates a record of the battle. So when you take all this stuff together, you can go back and look at it, and you can learn from that. You can use it for training. You can go and see what mistakes that you made. You can see where you said something wrong, and maybe you could do something in the future to prevent that from happening again. You also can look at like patterns for coming up with templates to make things faster and easier, like the way you do op orders in the previous lesson. That could be easily turned into a template that you quickly can fill out some basic things in, and now you got a really good order that only took you a few minutes to build, instead of something like I did, which was very labor intensive and probably not the best solution for the vast majority of organizations. So something to think about here. But anyhow, the command chat that's really private discussion between the alliance command team regarding the match, and there may be some things that we want to just keep between us. So it might be, for example, like hey, this new guy that we brought in isn't doing so great, or hey, this guy's really doing terrific, and we definitely want to make sure that we include him in the future, or hey, we need to update our training plan because this got missed, stuff like that. General is just where all the basic stuff starts from. That's where orders are usually issued and tactics discussed and so on. It's just where more or less everything is connected ultimately to the general. But we try to separate these things out here because we don't want to clutter up the general chat with all this other stuff, which is really important orders and things. So the economy, that's where you post the resource needs that you have. So what we do is make sure that we prioritize where our resources go in accordance with the build plan, but also micromanage the hell out of it. So usually the commander for that particular map, he'll get everybody to say, hey, in the next 6 hours, I'm going to need these resources, and list what they are, minus the resources that they're going to produce for themselves, in order to do whatever it is they're going to do, a research or a build or whatever. And what happens is everybody says, hey, I need all these things. You can prioritize them in accordance with the way that you see the battle unfolding and what units you think are going to be most important. Usually that's going to be your cruisers, and your MRLs, or MAs, something like that. But there may be other considerations thrown in there, like AWACS and stuff like that's a really important unit too. And it just all depends on the timing and what resources you have available, and so on. So I make guys report all that stuff out early so that I have a lot of notice. I can, first of all, I'm not always on constantly, although I usually am, but I need to be able to step away occasionally and do everything from go to the bathroom and eat, whatever. When I come back, I can see what people need and I can prioritize those resources and give them to them. It's a really good system. It works well, and you can wind up producing a lot more than you otherwise would by doing this. We also introduced this. This actually is fairly new for us. The economy screenshots. We started tracking exactly what our production rates were and what was inside our market for each country, and we just had guys just capture that as a screenshot and post that. It's a little crappy when you got guys that are using the mobile client, because that doesn't do it in the same way that the desktop client does. So unfortunately, what it meant is sometimes I would get stuff displayed to me in hourly rates, and others it was daily rates that I had to backwards into the hourly rate. Not a big deal, but it was annoying. Screenshots in general is intel. Think like that. Like when you see something, quickly get a screenshot of it before it disappears and post that, and then we can go back and look. And you'd be surprised, how much information you can have when you gather all this up over time. You'll know what units people are creating, what level they are, where they were at, possibly even where they're headed or where they're staged to. There's a ton of information that's captured there. And so you have 7 players that are all watching at different times of the day, especially if you're spread out over multiple time zones like we are. Um, I had a guy in Japan, I had a guy in Chile, I had a guy in France, and the rest of us were over 4 different time zones in the U.S. So we had all the time zones covered. But when you see something, you get a quick screenshot of it, you post it, you kind of put a couple comments in there to kind of give the context of what you saw, and it really helps a lot. Build plan is where we issue the orders like, hey, this is the build plans that we're going to go with, and then I'll assign them to somebody before the war begins, so that way we have a really good understanding of what you're going to be asked to do. Um, the land battle, the naval battle plan, as the name suggests, that's really just a place to discuss the war plans for those things, and then post the actual naval orders and any changes that might be applied. And occasionally, we actually would assign like a naval battle commander, a sub commander, and a land battle sub commander. Those guys usually are really experienced, and because of the nature of the map, there's going to be a whole lot of intense activity in one area. And instead of trying to have one commander that's trying to see everything always at the same time, it's better to have guys who are focused on those things. So that's been working really well for us, that kind of activity, and I would encourage you to do the same thing. Over here at the top part here, there's just a couple other little comments in here. You definitely want to have a place for voice chat and use it often, especially when you're first kicking off the war period in the early hours, or when you're first kicking off the even the truce period in the first couple hours, or the first hour or so, let's say, until you get everything queued up. And you want to do that because a couple reasons. First, it just helps you clarify what your intent is, answer questions, and so on. And the other thing is just a camaraderie thing. We found that when we're talking to everybody, especially guys who are new, they're like, "Hey, I really enjoyed just being part of the team and talking to you guys for the first time in some cases," and it just made the game a lot more enjoyable. And I would encourage you to do that. The last thing on there is another way to get like more of your alliance involved in this, and consider streaming the battle inside your Discord. Now, you wouldn't want to make it public, but if you had like a private place that only a handful of your guys can get into, that are in your alliance, your trusted folks, and let them in and have a look at what's going on there and listen to the discussion and so on. They can learn a lot. You might even be able to allow them to ask questions, and it'll be a lot of fun for them to watch it and listen to it. We started doing this, and our interest has gone up quite a bit in watching these things, and we're going to continue to do it. So I would encourage you to consider doing the same thing. Anyhow, that concludes the what I had for thoughts on a really important aspect to alliance matches. So this concludes this lesson of the Alliance Match Training Series, where fortune favors the prepared mind. And now, for real, up next is lessons 19 and 20. These are tactics-focused ones with naval units for lesson 19 and artillery units for lesson 20. And it's going to be very different than what I'm doing. Right now it's like this static, slideshow that I created, and boom, here's some thoughts, and I just sort of talk about it. How I'm going to do these two lessons in 19 and 20 is I got a match that's an alliance versus alliance match. There's a bunch of players already in there. We'll stage a couple of battles to show you some tactics and techniques to use, and stacking and things like that. We'll talk about. And then I'll have other people involved, guys like Cleric, and Ancient Warrior, and some others, and we'll have them, adding commentary and discussing things, and giving their flavor on it. I'll start off the discussion with some kind of a preamble, and I'll have something staged for them, and this won't be rehearsed. It'll be something that just flows freely out of their mind, and hopefully it's something that you find a lot of value in. I'll try to make each one of these, around 30 minutes or so. It just depends on how it goes. And that technique that I have in mind for lessons 19 and 20. I will do a bunch of other ones as well with a lot more detail. These will just be like introductory, high-level thing on some really important stuff for naval battle and for arty, but there'll be a whole lot more detail in the ones that I do in the future. Which brings me to the final point that I'll make is, please leave comments if you have any requests, if you have something specifically that you would like to see. I have a list of things that I'm planning on sharing based on feedback from other people. That list includes things like details on how to exactly build a spreadsheet. So that'll be probably another series of videos that I'll have a lot more detail about how to actually build your own spreadsheet. And I might even, if I can figure out how to do it in a way that makes sense, give you guys some basic data that you can use as a starting point, instead of you having to do what I had to do, which was go and like read what was in the game and then write that down on the spreadsheet for what it costs to build a level 1 army base and then a level 2 army base and so on. I might be able to give you all that data up front, and that will save you guys some time to do all of that, and hopefully help you guys build your own spreadsheets in a meaningful way and get you kind of a really good start on that, because it does take time to perfect it and make it something meaningful for you and your alliance. So, but if you have any other ideas, please put those in the comments. I'm happy to take those on board. This is not going to stop at the 20 lessons that I had in mind. I'm going to continue to do this, and I really want to try to support the general overall Con League, and maybe also the broader Conflict of Nations constituency. So happy to take anything on board and offer any help and expertise, and I will be dragging in true experts, not just my opinion about this stuff, for all of these things in the future. Thank you all very much. I really appreciate if you're able to sit through all 19 of these or 18 of these lessons so far. I think the next couple of ones are going to be fun, although a little bit experimental, so they might be a little rough. But I'll get better at this as time goes on. This is my first crack at doing any kind of YouTube videos, so hopefully it's something you find useful. And if you do, I will be encouraged and probably continue to do things. If I get hate mail and everyone says this is terrible and nobody looks at them, then I won't waste my time, because I don't want to waste yours either. So please leave some comments. Let me know what you guys think. And please ask for anything that you would like to see me take on. I will try to leverage the greater con community to do a much better job of this going forward. And with that, this concludes lesson number 18, and I look forward to doing lessons 19 and 20 here in the next few days. Probably Sunday I'll probably do those and post them shortly after that. This is Fun Chief signing off. Over and out.